As we're gathered here among the names of the fallen, let's recall for a minute the words of the parable of the talents in the Gospel of Matthew. 3 servants were given talents by their master to steward for him while he was away. When the master came back, he discovered that 2 of the servants had invested their talents wisely and returned to him a good bit more than what he had originally left with them. The 3rd servant had buried his talent in the ground, and when the master came back, he dug it up and returned it to him safely, but without any profit. Back then, of course, a talent was a unit of money, but I like to think of this story with another definition of talent. A talent is the ability to do something unusual with a remarkable degree of excellence. By that definition, the Army Chemical Corps is the steward of a vast array of talents. A couple of years ago, I heard General Thomas Spohr remark on the fact that after the Fukushima nuclear reactor incident in Japan, within a remarkably short time after the request, the Army Chemical Corps had established a 24-hour, 360-degree perimeter of radiation monitors. The General's comment was, no other organization on planet Earth could have done what they did. That, folks, is talent. When the 48th Chemical Brigade deployed to Liberia recently, they were exercising a talent. Who but the Chemical Corps could have executed that mission on that scope and that scale and that schedule? But before either of those missions could take place, somebody outside the Corps had to understand what the Corps could do. They had to trust the Corps, to have confidence that the Corps would execute the missions with excellence. If your talent is not recognized and valued, it might as well be buried in the ground. And that challenge of educating others and gaining trust of others would have been understood by all the men whose names are on these plaques around us here, because this problem goes all the way back to the earliest days of the 1st Gas Regiment. Infantry commanders valued chemical troops so little that they assigned them to road maintenance during the First American Campaign. One result of this was that the 1st Corps Chief of Staff wrote in his after-action report that fast and high-quality road maintenance contributed materially to the success of the American forces in the campaign. While that was going on, regimental and battalion officers were visiting their infantry counterparts, explaining the capabilities of the gas and flame troops and how they could support the infantry mission. Weapons squads were demonstrating their equipment and firepower. As a result, for the next campaign, the 3 Corps commanders were competing amongst themselves to see who could obtain the available chemical resources. When the assault jumped off, chemical troops were attached to all 8 assault divisions in all 3 corps along a 50-mile battlefront. So when you look at the names on this monument of those fallen in World War I, before they fell, they had to earn the right to apply their talent on the battlefield. In World War II, combat commanders were skeptical of the need for chemical units. Nobody wanted to tie up scarce men and materiel in an in case of need kind of mission. But the chemical troops knew what devastation could take place if they were not in theater with a ready chemical capability to deter the enemy from the use of chemical weapons that we knew the enemy had available all around the globe. Well, General William Porter, with some truly admirable political maneuvering, won the mission for the chemical mortars to fire close support of infantry with high explosive and white phosphorus. In that role, chemical troops soon became an indispensable part of every combat team. And so, when you look at the names in the World War II grove over here, none of them fell in a chemical mission. They were firing infantry support, but by their very presence on the battlefield, they were an immediate deterrent, and they protected American forces from untold numbers of chemical casualties that otherwise would have been inflicted. In Korea, the commander of the 2nd Infantry Division told a chemical officer We really love working with you chemical guys. Anything we ask you to do, you do it. And then you come back with ideas for doing things that we hadn't thought of. Well, he was talking to an officer in the 2nd Chemical Mortar Battalion. They were not executing any chemical missions. They were firing the same close support as every infantry and marine heavy mortar battalion. But they did it with such excellence. And if you have not looked at the Red Dragon's monument for Korea over here, I encourage you to do so. They carried out their mission so superbly that they won the trust and confidence of combat commanders for chemical troops, and that worked to the advantage of every chemical mission and activity in the conflict. I read an article last week that 2,000 Air Force reservists are going to be granted medical benefits. In 1972 to 75, they worked on aircraft that had been used to deploy Agent Orange in Vietnam and were not adequately decontaminated. Ironically, that is the same period in which the Army decided it didn't need a separate chemical branch, and it placed the Corps in administrative deactivation. Also, ironically, the Corps at that point had made great strides in research and application and was as technically proficient as it had ever been. They had a talent, but they had de-emphasized the mission of educating others about their capabilities and about the value of their support for the missions of the other branches. So 42 years later, we are still harvesting the bitter fruit from that short period when the Corps did not successfully win the right to employ its vast talent. For that short period, maybe for the only time in its history, the Corps did not live up to the standards of the names of those fallen around us. I have some good news. I think your Dragon soldiers understand very well the need to educate others and to gain the trust of others, so their talent will be available and will be called on to defend those same others when the time of need arises. A few years ago, I interviewed some soldiers from the 46th Chemical Company who had just returned from Iraq. And they let me know up front in the interviews, look, we didn't do any chemical stuff. I said, that's okay, tell me what you did do. Well, they proceeded to regale me with so many stories of non-chemical missions that they had executed with excellence and commitment and creativity that they would have fit right in with those guys doing road maintenance 87 years earlier. I asked one young sergeant out of that group, what is the mission of the Chemical Corps? And she said, our job is to be scared for people who don't understand what they should be scared of. Well, I have that statement on a PowerPoint slide that I use in my historical presentations, and I've had soldiers, your Dragon soldiers, stop me from going on to the next slide so that they can come up with their phones and take pictures of that statement. They really identify with it. They understand that it's not enough to have a talent, it's not enough to be ready. Your talent must be valued and recognized. They understand that to bury your talent in the ground is to break faith with the names around us. Because they understand that, because you understand that, I believe that the Corps will continue to use its talents wisely. I believe your performance will warrant, just as the performance of these fallen warrants, the praise that was given to the servants in the parable, those who used their talents wisely. And if you remember the phrasing of the parable, that praise is one of the most beautiful, heartwarming sentences in the English language. Well done, thou good, faithful servant.